Today is Wednesday, May 6th, and today we're going to cover a fun
group training session that we did now that we are allowed to be out of quarantine in Georgia.
Georgia, no peace I find. Just an old sweet song,
Find your place and close your eyes so your heart can start to sing. When you give up being self-absorbed, your being becomes a great community. Find your place and close your eyes so your heart can start to sing. When you give up being self-absorbed, your being becomes a great community.
Today's focus specifically was weightlifting strength endurance, long duration metcons, and then strength endurance after the metcon. So let's go through it piece by piece. Part one was max rep squat clean and jerks at 80% of your 1 rep max in 90 seconds. This type of heavy barbell cycling is something that's super important for the sport in a workout like 16.2 or 17.3, where you have to get up to big percentages of your 1 rep max and lift the bar in a fatigue-based setting repeatedly to get through to the next interval, to the next round. That is a skill that needs to be trained. Now, in the sport, they have fixed loads. So in 16.2 or 19.2, for a male athlete, you have to do squat cleans at 135, 185, 225, 275, 315, whatever that progressive jump is, and they're fixed weights. Some people's capacity and strength is not high enough to be able to lift those loads, so they just get there and they're just time capped and they stand at the bar. Now that doesn't really give them a good strength training stimulus, so when I write it into a group program, oftentimes I'll give the percentage of 1 rep max. So we basically just set a 90-second timer, put the weight on your weight at 80%, and then go as many reps as you can in that period of time. So it's kind of a fun way to get a training competition style blend. Me and Kyle Bernier actually used the same weight, so we got to go head to head against one another. And then the other athletes were all at their different percentages.
That was my 7th.
No.
I failed it.
How many did you get?
7.
That sucked.
This training session is from The Design, which is our online training program for the development of competitive CrossFit. Our major themes right now in training are development for qualifier stuff. We don't know when the next competition is going to be. We don't know when people can go in person, but we are speculating that there is going to be an open and that the online qualifier style part of the sport is going to be a big part of the sport because a lot of places are going to be quarantined. So that's what we're focusing on right now. After that, we moved into 4 6-minute AMRAPs, and each one of those 6-minute AMRAPs had 2 minutes rest between. So it's 24 minutes of total work. As a general rule of thumb, when you're doing endurance training, there should be some periods of time that you're training beyond the time domain that you're prepping for, and a lot of the longest tests in the open are about 20 minutes. Doesn't really get that far outside of that from a time domain perspective, so we did 24 minutes of total work. But in order to try to do something to keep the speed up, basically I put 2 minutes of rest time in between each one of the intervals that allows you to actually recover a little bit between the work bouts. And I also changed the movements, which oftentimes allows people to go faster. So let's say, for example, I did toes to bar in the first workout and toes to bar in the second workout, toes to bar in the third workout. At some point as you're going through that 24 minutes of work, unless you're an elite athlete, your grip is probably failing, your core is probably failing, your hip flexors are probably failing. It's very hard to keep a sustained work output for that period of time. So I tried to combat this by switching the movements in workouts 1, 2, and 3, And then for workout number 4, I actually matched workout number 1 so that people could see over the course of 24 minutes of work, can they try to get close to their work output in the last 6 minutes as they started at. So the first AMRAP was 6 burpees, 6 dumbbell thrusters, 36 double unders. The second 6-minute AMRAP was 6 bar facing burpees, so a different burpee variation, 6 double dumbbell front squats, so a different squatting variation, and then 6 lateral box jumps, which is a different jumping variation. Then the third one was 6 burpee box jump-overs, again, a change in the burpee structure, 6 double dumbbell hang power cleans, so different use for the dumbbells, and then 36 double unders again. So 3 of the 4 AMRAPs are gonna have double unders. And then the last one is the same as the first, 6 burpees, 6 dumbbell thrusters, 36 double unders. I think this structure has been really helpful for people because of what I talked about earlier, by having those interset rests, those 2-minute rests just allow you to keep a little bit higher of a work output over those 24 minutes. The change in movement patterns allows people to avoid muscle fatigue a little bit differently. So you're still jumping and people's calves and feet definitely still became a limitation, but by changing the movements up a little bit, sometimes we get a little bit more output from people. And then finally, that is my final point. I don't have another point for you there. So that was the workout structure. Going through those 4 6-minute AMRAPs was brutal. It was hot. And I got beat by a lot of people on this workout, but it was still a fun workout. And then after we did that, one way to train strength endurance is by doing our strength work after doing conditioning. Now, this training program is primarily for people that are prepping for competition. It's not necessarily just a general CrossFit program for people that are just trying to get fit and stay, in as good of shape as possible. It's actually to prepare for the sport. The sport demand requires you to lift heavy under fatigue. So sometimes in the program, I put the strength work after the Metcon. So that way people are super tired, they're super fatigued, their midlines are fatigued. So in today's session, we did 2 sets of 10 back squats and 2 sets of 8 back squats. And the loading recommendations for those were 70% for the 2 sets of 10, then 75 for the first set of 8, and 80% for the last set of 8. Those squats got pretty tough after all that work. I put a note in here for people as we're going that you do your actual Metcon, and then instead of resting until you're fully recovered, just have some sense of urgency that you're getting back up and starting squatting as soon as possible. So in a workout like 18.2 and 18.2a, you have a 12-minute window to finish a whole Metcon and do a max squat clean. So let's say most people are finishing that in 5 or 6 minutes. That means you only have 6 minutes to lift. So when we did this session, I started my first warm-up set exactly 5 minutes after I finished my last AMRAP, which definitely made those first couple sets and warm-up sets of back squats pretty brutal and just like reorienting myself and letting my blood pressure regulate. But that's the type of training stress that needs to be done to match the demands of the sport. That is our training session from Wednesday, May 6th. I hope you enjoyed it and got a good look into how we train in the design. If you're interested in being part of the design community, head over to trainingthinktank.com.
Don't tell him!
/DSGN. I'm sorry.
Don't go there!
There's a worm addicted to eating grape leaves. Suddenly, he wakes up. Call it grace, whatever. Something wakes him, and he's no longer a worm. He's the entire vineyard, and the orchard too, the fruit, the trunks, a growing wisdom and joy that doesn't need to devour.